My grandfather surreptitiously passed me an envelope beneath the table, hidden amongst the mashed potatoes and dinner rolls. No one noticed, not my father, engrossed in a heated debate with my uncle regarding the Giants' offensive line. Not my mother, occupied with preventing Jake from flinging peas skyward with his spoon. Not Maya, who was assisting my grandmother with clearing the dishes. The entire household buzzed with vibrant, boisterous energy, a typical scene for a Saturday dinner when the food is plentiful and the conversations are even hotter. Amidst this lively clamor, my grandfather leaned in close, pressing a substantial envelope into my palm under the tablecloth, his fingers betraying a subtle tremor. Arthur Hartman's hands were not prone to shaking. This was a man who had dedicated 60 years to working with his hands, from soldering copper pipes in sub-zero crawl spaces to threading gas lines in scorching attics, even rebuilding entire plumbing systems and structures slated for demolition. His hands were his most steadfast attribute. In the 34 years I had known him, I had never witnessed his fingers tremble. "Don't unseal this here," he whispered, his voice a low rumble beneath the din of the dining room. It was a sound lost beneath my uncle's expletive-laden critique of the quarterback, the clatter of cutlery, the peals of laughter, and the general, comforting chaos of a Hartman family gathering in Bridgeport, Connecticut, on a crisp Saturday evening in October 2024. "Grandpa, what is it? I should go home. Pack a bag. Pack a." He drew nearer, his mouth close to my ear. He carried the familiar, comforting sense of Old Spice and pipe tobacco, mingled with the distinct aroma of Lava's soap, a daily ritual since 1965. Yet, beneath these well-known fragrances, a new, unsettling odor lingered, the unmistakable scent of cold sweat. Not the sweat of exertion, but the chilling perspiration of pure fear. "They're observing," he stated, his breath warm against my skin. "You have 24 hours. Then, he straightened, retrieved his coffee cup, and took a casual sip, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. He turned to my grandmother and remarked, "Helen, this pot roast is so good, it could resurrect the dead." She playfully swatted his arm, chiding him for his dramatic flair. The table erupted in laughter, and the meal continued its course. I remained, the envelope resting in my lap, his ominous words echoing in my mind like a relentless hammer. "They're watching. You have 24 hours. I studied his face. He was smiling at my grandmother, praising the pie she was about to serve, embodying the persona of Artie Hartman, the 79-year-old retired plumber known for his corny jokes and meticulously crafted birdhouses. He had always been precisely who he appeared to be, a comforting constant in our lives. But his eyes conveyed a different narrative. When they briefly met mine across the table, I saw something I had never encountered before. Not sadness, not anger, but something ancient and profound, a primal force that seemed to have been confined for an eternity, only now to break free. He was afraid. My grandfather, who had weathered every storm, my grandmother's hearing loss, the devastating recession of 2008 that nearly crippled his business, a serious fall from a ladder in 2015 that resulted in 3 fractured ribs and a week-long hospital stay, was genuinely afraid. I carefully placed the envelope into the inner pocket of my jacket. I finished my slice of pie. I embraced my grandmother, clasped my father's hand, kissed my mother, and retrieved Jake from the living room floor where he had fallen asleep, nestled beside the family dog. With Maya by my side, I walked out to my car, carrying the weight of my grandfather's secret, a burning ember against my chest. The drive from Bridgeport to Ridgefield, a journey of approximately 25 miles that typically took 35 minutes on a clear evening, felt like traversing 1,000 miles that night. "You're remarkably quiet," Maya observed. She sat in the passenger seat, her hand resting on my thigh, a familiar gesture on our drives home. Maya Hartman, 32 years old, a pediatric physical therapist, possessed an uncanny ability to decipher a room by the posture of its occupants. She could, without a doubt, read me. Just a bit tired. You're not merely tired. You're something else entirely. What did your grandfather impart to you? At dinner, when he leaned over, I witnessed him hand you something. I had married a woman with an exceptional eye for detail. Most days, this was one of the qualities I cherished most about her. Tonight, however, it was a decided inconvenience. I'll explain everything when we reach home. Tell me now. When we get home, Maya, please. She regarded me intently for a long moment. Then, she turned and looked at Jake, asleep in his car seat behind us, his mouth slightly agape, his cherished stuffed bear tucked beneath his chin. All right, she conceded. When we get home, we navigated into the driveway of our residence on Silvermine Road in Ridgefield at precisely 7:04 p.m. Our Cape Cod home, purchased in 2020 with an FHA loan and every last cent of our savings, represented the collective aspirations of two individuals in their early 30s who believed that a home with a yard and a reputable school district formed the bedrock of a fulfilling life. I carried Jake upstairs, gently placed him in his crib, and stood there for a moment, watching him sleep. He was 3 years old, weighing 27 pounds, the entirety of my world condensed into a small, sleeping form that still fit perfectly in my arms. He possessed my mother's nose, Maya's characteristic stubbornness, and a laugh capable of mending any rift in my day. Whatever secrets lay within that envelope, whatever specter my grandfather feared, this boy was the compelling reason I needed to comprehend it all. I descended the stairs. Maya was already at the kitchen table, 2 glasses of water placed before her, the overhead light casting a focused glow. She sat with an unwavering posture, hands clasped, her gaze clear, the posture of someone preparing for a conversation of profound importance. "Show me," she requested. I retrieved the envelope from my jacket, sat opposite her, and opened it. Inside, I discovered a handwritten letter, 6 pages in length, penned in my grandfather's distinctive block print. It was the same hand that had meticulously labeled pipe fittings, drafted countless invoices, and signed birthday cards with love, Grandpa Artie, for 34 years. Accompanying the letter was a small brass key, the type used for safety deposit boxes, and a USB drive, unadorned in black. Finally, there was a business card bearing the name Agent Carla Voss, Federal Bureau of Investigation, New Haven Field Office. The FBI. I picked up the letter. Maya leaned forward. I began to read aloud, for I understood that whatever this was, we were facing it together. Leo, if you are reading this, it means I have run out of time to convey to you in person what I should have shared years ago, even decades ago. I apologize for that. I apologize for everything. But right now, apologies hold no weight. What truly matters is that you grasp the current situation and act with swiftness. I glanced at Maya. She gave a slight nod. Continue reading. In 1968, I was 23 years old. I was employed as a plumber's apprentice in Bridgeport, undertaking a repair at a social club on State Street. The establishment was owned by a gentleman named Angelo Marchetti. I was unaware of his standing. My sole purpose was to rectify a malfunctioning water heater. While in the basement, I stumbled upon a concealed room, hidden behind a false wall. Within this room, I discovered numerous boxes of currency, ledgers, and documents that, even to a 23-year-old plumber, clearly indicated illicit activities. I ought to have departed then and there. I did not. The following day, I returned to complete the repair, only to find 2 men in suits awaiting my arrival. They were not Garibaldi's associates. They were federal agents. They had been monitoring the club for months. They knew I had discovered the hidden room, and they presented me with a stark choice: cooperate or face charges as an accessory to money laundering. I chose to cooperate. I paused my reading, my gaze shifting from the letter to Maya. Her face was remarkably serene. Your grandfather was an FBI informant? That is what this indicates. Artie the plumber, the man who built birdhouses. Keep listening. I resumed reading. For 15 years, from 1968 to 1983, I served as a confidential informant for the FBI. My direct contact was an agent named Roy Brennan. My plumbing work continued as my cover. The Garibaldi family utilized my services frequently, as I was perceived as reliable and discreet, and because plumbers gain access to various locales. No one gives a second thought to basements, utility closets, or spaces behind walls. I observed matters. I overheard conversations, and I dutifully reported everything to Clive. In 1983, the FBI initiated its decisive action. 14 members of the Garibaldi organization were apprehended. Angelo Marchetti was sentenced to life imprisonment. His lieutenants followed suit. The entire operation was dismantled, and I received a commendation I could never publicly acknowledge: a modest pension supplement that defied explanation, and an ironclad promise that my identity would remain perpetually confidential. For 41 years, that promise held true. Last month, it was shattered. I turned the page. A journalist submitted a Freedom of Information Act request for documents pertaining to the Garibaldi case. While most of the files were appropriately redacted, one collection contained references to a tradesman from Bridgeport who had served as the primary informant. The journalist published an article in a true crime magazine. It was a small piece, unlikely to be noticed by anyone in our family, but it fell into the hands of the wrong individual. Angelo Marchetti's son, Vincent, is now 58 years old. He served 12 years in federal prison and has been a free man since 2007. He has spent 17 years endeavoring to identify the informant who brought about his family's downfall. That article provided him with the final crucial piece of information. Roy Brennan, my former handler, still maintains connections within the Bureau. 3 days ago, he contacted me. He informed me that Vincent Marchetti has identified me. He also conveyed that Vincent has dispatched individuals to Connecticut. He mentioned they have been sighted in Bridgeport. Leo, I am 79 years old. I have lived with this secret for 56 years. My concern is not for myself. My fear is for you, for Maya, for Jake, for your father and mother. These individuals do not merely target the informant. They extend their retribution to the entire family. The key enclosed within this envelope unlocks a safety deposit box at the First National Bank on Main Street in Bridgeport. Inside, you will find $385,000 in cash. It represents my savings accumulated over 55 years of plumbing work, augmented by the FBI pension supplement, all set aside precisely for an emergency of this magnitude. Take it. Utilize it to ensure your family's safety until this situation is resolved. The USB drive contains digital reproductions of Clive's original handler reports, meticulously documenting every rendezvous and every piece of intelligence I provided. I acquired these from Clive years ago as a safeguard. Should anything befall me, these reports serve as irrefutable proof. The business card belongs to Agent Carla Voss, FBI New Haven. She oversees referrals for witness protection programs. Clive has already initiated contact with her. She anticipates your call. Contact her this evening, Leo. Pack a bag, take Maya and Jake and depart. Do not inform your father. Not just yet. I will handle Dean. You, however, must attend to your family. I regret never revealing this to you, son. I lament that you are discovering it under these circumstances, but I became an informant not out of bravery. I did so because I had no other viable option. And I maintained my silence for 56 years because silence was the sole shield that protected everyone I loved. You have 24 hours, perhaps less. Act now. I love you. I have always loved you. And everything I have done, every pipe I have repaired, every birdhouse I have constructed, every deception I have uttered about my true identity has been in service of safeguarding this family. Grandpa Artie. I placed the letter back on the table. The kitchen was profoundly quiet. The refrigerator hummed softly. Upstairs, Jake stirred in his sleep, a faint murmur of a child adjusting his position in his crib. Maya picked up the letter, reread it silently, then set it down. She then retrieved the FBI business card, turning it over in her fingers before placing it back on the table. Call her, Maya urged. It's past 7 o'clock on a Saturday. Your grandfather stated she is expecting your call. Make the call. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the card. It rang twice. This is Marsh. Agent Marsh. My name is Leo Hartman. I am Arthur Hartman's grandson. Mr. Hartman, I have been anticipating your call. Roy Brennan debriefed me 2 days ago. Her voice was controlled, professional, the tone of someone accustomed to dealing with threats and meticulously calibrated to project competence without inducing panic. How much has your grandfather disclosed to you? Everything. The letter, the key, the USB drive. He mentioned we have 24 hours. That is a reasonably accurate time frame. We have been closely monitoring Vincent Marchetti's movements since the FOIA disclosure. 2 individuals associated with his organization were observed in the Bridgeport vicinity approximately 48 hours ago. We surmise they are conducting surveillance prior to initiating an action. Surveillance on whom? Your grandfather, potentially your father's residence in Hartford, and possibly you. I met Maya's gaze. She was listening intently, her eyes scanning my face with the same practiced discernment she employed when assessing her patients, searching for pain, for fear, for the unspoken truths. What is our course of action? Tonight, remain within your residence. Maintain your usual lighting patterns. Avoid conspicuous packing. If anyone is observing, we do not wish to signal that you are aware of the threat. I am dispatching 2 agents to your vicinity within the hour. They will establish surveillance on your street. You will not see them, but they will be present. And tomorrow morning, my team will arrive at your doorstep at 7 o'clock. We will escort you, your wife, and your son to a secure facility. Your grandfather will be relocated separately. Your parents will be contacted and briefed. For how long? Until the threat is neutralized. We are coordinating with the Organized Crime Unit in New York. Vincent Marchetti has been on our watch list for years. This incident provides us with the necessary probable cause to act against him. She paused. Mr. Hartman, your grandfather performed an act of immense bravery in 1968. The fact that he continues to safeguard his family 56 years later speaks volumes about the caliber of man he is. He's a plumber, I stated. He fixes things. Indeed, he does. I concluded the call. Maya was already in motion. She ascended the stairs quietly, retrieved a suitcase from the closet, and began packing Jake's belongings. Diapers, clothing, his beloved stuffed bear, and the blanket he refused to sleep without. She packed with the focused efficiency of someone who had deemed fear a luxury she could not afford at that moment. I contacted my grandfather. He answered on the first ring, clearly having been expecting my call. You opened it. Yes, Grandpa. I opened it. A silence followed, heavy and palpable. The silence of a man who had borne the weight of a secret for 56 years and had finally relinquished it. I am sorry. No. Don't apologize. Tell me the rest. The rest. The details you couldn't include in the letter. Tell me who you truly are. He remained silent for a considerable period. I could hear his breathing, the low murmur of a baseball game emanating from his television, the settling sounds of the house he had called home for 43 years, the very house where I had learned to ride a bicycle, to catch a baseball, and to use a spirit level. I was 23, he eventually said. I was just a kid. I hadn't even secured my journeyman's license yet. I was merely an apprentice performing a water heater repair at a social club on State Street. The owner, a fellow named Sal, was one of Garibaldi's men. He directed me to the basement for the water heater. So I went down, and behind the utility area, there was a door that was supposed to be secured. It wasn't. I pushed it open. What did you observe? Cash. Boxes upon boxes of cash, ledgers, a desk with a telephone, and a calendar filled with dates and names. I didn't fully comprehend the extent of it, but I recognized it wasn't plumbing supplies. And the FBI? Two agents were waiting outside when I departed. They had been surveilling the club for months. They witnessed me enter, and they saw me emerge with a visibly shaken demeanor. They approached me in the parking lot, presented their badges, and inquired about my observations. I informed them, and then one of them, a man named Roy Brennan, uttered words I have never forgotten. He said, "Son, you can walk away right now and pretend you saw nothing, but those men in that club are causing harm to people. They are destroying families, and you have an opportunity to help stop them. So, what do you intend to do?" And you agreed. I said yes because Clive framed it as if I possessed a choice. I am not entirely certain I did, but I like to believe I would have consented regardless. He paused. I was a plumber, Leo. No one scrutinizes a plumber. No one pays close attention to a plumber. I was effectively invisible, and that made me the ideal operative. For 15 years. For 15 years. Every time they summoned me to rectify a problem, I was actively listening. Every time I found myself in a basement, a back room, or a crawl space, I was observing. I would return home each night and meticulously document everything I recalled. And once a week, I would meet Clive at a diner along the post road and hand over my notes. Were you perpetually fearful? Every single day. For 15 years. I felt apprehension driving to work and driving home. And I felt that when I kissed your grandmother goodnight, knowing that if they ever discover my role, they would not only target me, but they would extend their reach to her, to your father, to everyone. Yet you persisted. What other recourse did I have? To abandon the mission? To walk away and permit those individuals to continue their destructive path? I was merely a plumber, Leo. I possessed no authority to arrest anyone, nor to prosecute. My sole capability was to fix things. So, I rectified what I could, using the only method I knew. I sat at my kitchen table at 8:30 on a Saturday evening, absorbing the narrative of my 79-year-old grandfather recounting the clandestine life he had led before my birth. And I experienced an emotion I had not anticipated. Not shock, not anger, not fear, but an overwhelming, profound sense of pride. Pride for a man I believed I knew intimately, yet was only now truly meeting. Grandpa, yes, you are more than just a plumber. Of course I am. I am simply a plumber who paid attention to the details. You are a hero. He fell silent. When he spoke again, his voice was rougher. Do not address me in such terms. Heroes act out of courage. I acted because I happened to be in the wrong basement at the opportune moment, and a man in a suit convinced me it was the righteous path. That, Grandpa, is precisely what renders it heroic. He offered no reply. I could hear his steady breathing. I suspect he was weeping, though I cannot be certain. For Arthur Hartman had never openly displayed his emotions, and he was hardly about to commence such an act over the telephone. Take good care of that boy, he finally stated. Look after Maya. I will see you on the other side of this ordeal. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, kid. Now, hang up the phone and get packing. Sleep eluded me. Maya, too, remained awake. We sat in the living room with the lights on and the curtains drawn, our suitcases positioned by the front door. Jake's bag was packed with provisions for a week. The USB drive was loaded onto my laptop. I meticulously reviewed its contents, page by page. Roy Brennan's Handler reports, originally typed on a government-issue typewriter in the 1970s and subsequently scanned into digital files decades later. Report after report after report. Dates, locations, names, monetary figures. The systematic chronicle of my grandfather's dual existence, rendered in the dispassionate, clinical language of federal law enforcement. Source provided information regarding cash delivery to State Street location on November 14th, 72. Source observed meeting between V. Garibaldi, an unidentified male, at Fairfield Avenue Restaurant on March 6th, 75. Source reports increased activity at warehouse location consistent with distribution operation. Source. That was his designation. Not Arthur, not Artie, but Source. A human being reduced to a function, a mere instrument for information gathering, an asset to be managed, protected, and ultimately filed away once the operation concluded. For 15 years, my grandfather was a source, and no one knew. Not his wife, not his son, not his grandson. He bore this burden in solitary silence, as he carried everything else, without complaint, with the steady hands of a man who had dedicated his life to mending what others did not even perceive as broken. At 2:14 a.m., a vehicle proceeded slowly past our residence. A dark sedan, its lights extinguished. I watched from the narrow gap between the curtains, my heart pounding against my ribs. It reached the end of the street, turned, and then retraced its path past our house once more. Subsequently, it disappeared from view. I retrieved my phone and texted Agent Marsh. Dark sedan just passed house twice, no plates visible. Her response arrived within 11 seconds. We see it. We're on it. Stay inside. I remained at the window for another hour. Maya stood behind me, her hand resting reassuringly on my back. Neither of us spoke. There were no words that the profound silence was not already conveying. At 6:47 a.m., it was Sunday morning, and I was preparing coffee when the sound of car doors caught my attention. Two dark SUVs glided into the driveway. From the first one emerged Agent Karlovas. She appeared to be in her early 40s, with an athletic frame, clad in a navy blazer. Her expression conveyed a simultaneous sense of authority and reassurance, the look of someone who had navigated such situations before and knew how to calm those in distress. She then knocked on the door. I opened it. "Mr. Hartman," she began, "we're ready for you to relocate." "Relocate? To where?" I inquired. "To a secure facility in Western Massachusetts. You'll be well accommodated. Your grandfather's being transferred separately and will join you there." "And how long will this take?" "We anticipate making our move on Garibaldi within 48 hours. The intelligence your grandfather's letter provided, coupled with recent documented activities, has granted us probable cause for arrest warrants. Once he is apprehended, the danger to your family will be eliminated." "And what if it takes longer than that?" "It won't. This case has been under development for years. The original Handler reports from your grandfather on that USB drive are the final crucial element we required. Vincent Marchetti Jr. has been utilizing his construction firm as a facade for racketeering, extortion, and illicit financial dealings. When we make our move, we will dismantle his entire enterprise." At that moment, Mai appeared behind me, with Jake perched on her hip, his stuffed bear dangling from his hand, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Are we going on a journey, Daddy?" he asked. "Yes, buddy, a short trip." "Is Grandpa Artie coming?" "He'll meet us there." "Good. He said he would teach me to construct a birdhouse." I glanced at Mai. She met my gaze. There was no apprehension in her eyes. Instead, I saw something else. Something I had first noticed in her 7 years prior when we first met. It was the look of a woman resolved to confront whatever was coming with unwavering resolve. "Let's go," she said. Within 4 minutes, we had loaded the SUV. Agent Marsh's team meticulously examined the house, secured the USB drive and the contents of the envelope as evidence, and then escorted us out of the driveway. As we drove away, I looked back at our home, the Cape Cod on Silver Spring Road. I saw the yard where Jake had chased fireflies during the summer evenings. I saw the garage where I had spent weekends crafting furniture. It was the life we had meticulously built, piece by piece, in the manner my grandfather had imparted, with patience, with care, and with the conviction that anything truly valuable is worth constructing with deliberate effort. I knew we would return. Yet, the house appeared different now. Everything seemed altered. This was because the man who had taught me the art of building had also, without uttering a single word, instilled in me the understanding that the most significant constructions are those unseen by others. The safe house was a rustic farmhouse situated outside Northampton, Massachusetts, complete with white clapboard siding, a red barn, and 40 acres of undisturbed fields and profound silence. 2 agents remained with us constantly. Within an hour, Mai had transformed the kitchen into a semblance of our own home. The aroma of brewing coffee permeated the air. Jake's drawings were affixed to the refrigerator, and his beloved stuffed bear was positioned on the sofa in its preferred spot. Arthur arrived that afternoon in a separate vehicle. He entered carrying a small duffel bag and his plumber's toolbox, the same weathered red Craftsman box he had possessed for 60 years. I couldn't fathom why he'd brought it. Perhaps it represented the most genuine possession he owned. Jake, spotting him, rushed forward. "Grandpa Artie, are we at the birdhouse place?" Arthur embraced him with the vigor of a much younger man. "Not precisely, my boy, but I've brought my tools. We'll find a way to make it happen." He looked at me over Jake's head. His eyes, though weary, were clear. The tremor that had plagued his hands was gone. The fear remained, but it was now accompanied by something new: relief. The solace of a man who had finally ceased his pretense. That evening, after Jake had fallen asleep and Mai was engrossed in reading in the bedroom, Arthur and I sat at the kitchen table in the farmhouse. 2 cups of coffee sat between us, and the overhead light hummed with that familiar, almost melancholic drone found in older homes. "Your father is aware now," Arthur stated. "Agent Marsh briefed him and your mother this morning. They are at a different location." "How did Dad react?" "Much as you would anticipate. He's angry, not at the potential peril, but at the deception. 55 years of his father's lies weigh heavily. That is not a simple matter to forgive." "Will he forgive you?" "Eventually. Your father is an accountant. He processes information methodically and with precision. He will meticulously examine every calculation, every entry, and when he is finished, he will reconcile the accounts. That is his nature." "And Grandma, did she know?" "Never. Not a word in 51 years of marriage. She passed away in 2019, entirely unaware that her husband had spent 15 years reporting to the FBI from the clandestine quarters of individuals who would have terminated both of us had they discovered his activities." "How did you manage to keep it from her?" "By being a plumber. Plumbers work irregular hours. They're often called out at night. Plumbers visit places that seldom draw suspicion. Each time I met with Clive, I informed Helen I had an urgent service call. A burst pipe, a flooded basement, a gas leak. She never questioned it. Why would she? I was a plumber. That is what plumbers do. 15 years of emergency calls. 15 years of subterfuge." He gazed into his coffee. "That's the aspect they omit to mention about being an informant. It's not the danger that consumes you. It's the deception. Every morning, Looking at the woman you cherish and knowing that the man she believes she married does not truly exist, that she sleeps beside a stranger, that the life she perceives as reality is founded upon an unseen basis. But you did the right thing. Perhaps I helped confine criminals to prison. I contributed to dismantling an organization that was corrupting communities and shattering families. However, I achieved this by deceiving my own family for 15 years and then perpetuating that falsehood for an additional 41. Is that just? I don't know, Leo. Truly, I don't. I extended my hand across the table and placed it on his. His skin felt thin, almost translucent, etched with the scars and calluses of 60 years of manual labor. Hands that had repaired 10,000 pipes, constructed 100 birdhouses, cradled me as an infant, and taught me to strike a nail true. It was right, Grandpa. It was always right. He squeezed my hand. Some affirmations are best conveyed in the quiet understanding between two loving individuals. At a kitchen table in a remote farmhouse, at the close of an exceptionally long day, the FBI executed their operation against Vincent Marchetti Jr., 43 hours after our arrival at the safe house. 12 agents conducted simultaneous raids on his Queens residence and his construction company offices. The two associates who had been engaged in surveillance in Bridgeport were apprehended at a motel along Interstate 95 near Milford, Connecticut. Within their room, agents discovered photographs of my grandfather's home, my parents' residence in Hartford, and my own house in Ridgefield. They possessed addresses, daily routines, and license plate numbers. They were poised to act. They were denied the opportunity. Vincent Marchetti Jr. was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. The USB drive that my grandfather had meticulously preserved, containing Roy Brennan's initial handler reports, provided the foundational evidence linking the current criminal enterprise to the historical Garibaldi organization. 41 years of sealed FBI files, combined with current surveillance intelligence, coalesced into a case that Vincent's attorney described as overwhelming in his public statement requesting a plea agreement. The plea agreement was ultimately rejected. Vincent proceeded to trial 7 months later, in May of 2025. He was found guilty on all counts, receiving a 22-year federal sentence. He would be 80 years old upon release, if released at all. The two associates apprehended at the Milford Motel each received 12-year sentences. They had been in possession of firearms and detailed surveillance materials. The judge characterized their mission as a planned assassination targeting a civilian family. A civilian family. My family. Jake's family. We returned to our home 11 days after our departure. The Cape Cod on Silver Spring Road appeared precisely as it had before. The lawn was overgrown. Mail had accumulated. Jake's plastic tricycle remained on the porch where he had left it. But I was not the same, and I never would be again. 9 months have elapsed. It is July of 2025. The Connecticut summer air is humid. The trees are a vibrant green, and the heat is such that it encourages fireflies to emerge at dusk and sprinklers to run until midnight. I am back at Ridgefield High, in my shop classroom. I am teaching students how to operate lathes, table saws, and hand planes. I am back to the comforting scent of sawdust, the hum of machinery, and a unique sense of accomplishment derived from witnessing a 16-year-old who had never previously engaged with their hands to create anything suddenly realize their inherent capability. Arthur joins us for dinner every Sunday. He drives the 40 minutes from Bridgeport to Ridgefield in his 2004 Ford F-150, a truck that has accumulated more mileage than most commercial aircraft. He brings whatever of Helen's old recipes he has attempted that week. The man is incapable of cooking to save his life, but he makes the effort, and we consume whatever he brings. because that is the nature of family. He is different now, not necessarily better or worse, but lighter. The burden of 56 years of secrecy has been distributed throughout the family, shared by those who should have been carrying it all along. My father has come to terms with it, gradually, cautiously, in the methodical manner of an accountant. He and Arthur had an extended conversation in December that lasted for 4 hours, concluding with both of them sitting in Arthur's garage in silent companionship, simply occupying the same space, which is how Hartman men process difficult emotions. Mine navigates it as she does everything else, by moving forward. She does not dwell. She does not revisit. She addresses what is before her and trusts that whatever is behind her will remain in its rightful place. She confided in me once, during our stay at the safe house, that she had no fear. Why not? I had inquired. Because I know who you are. I know who your grandfather is. And I know that the individuals who sought to harm us are incarcerated, and the individuals who protected us are in this very kitchen. She glanced at Jake, who was constructing a tower from wooden blocks on the farmhouse floor. That, she stated, is sufficient. Jake retains only fragmented memories of the ordeal. He recalls the farmhouse, which he refers to as the birdhouse place, because Arthur did indeed teach him to construct a birdhouse during those 11 days. It is a lopsided, paint-splattered creation that now hangs from the oak tree in our backyard. It will never shelter a bird. It will never be perfectly straight. It is, however, the most cherished possession I own. Last week, I was in my shop classroom at Ridgefield High during fourth period junior woodworking. A student named Dylan was struggling with a lathe. He had been attempting to shape a table leg for 20 minutes, and the wood repeatedly caught, causing him to become frustrated in that characteristic adolescent manner, vocally, dramatically, with an escalating certainty that the universe was personally conspiring against him. I approached him and placed my hand on his shoulder. "My grandfather taught me something," I said. "He was a plumber. He worked with his hands his entire life. He said the most important aspect of working with your hands isn't what you construct, but what you repair. Anyone can build something new. It requires genuine skill to mend what is broken." Dylan looked at me. "What does that have to do with this ridiculous lathe? The wood is catching because you are resisting it. You are attempting to force the shape you desire rather than working in harmony with the grain. Slow down. Feel the wood. Allow it to guide you to where it wishes to go." He tried again, this time with more deliberation. The wood turned smoothly. The shape began to emerge. A table leg, not flawless, but tangible, fashioned by his own hands. "That's it," I said. "That's precisely it." A wide grin spread across his face. 16 years old and proud of a table leg. I recognized that feeling. I knew it because my grandfather had imparted it to me in his garage 30 years ago, teaching me that the effort matters, that the hands matter, and that the quiet, unseen labor of repairing, building, and consistently showing up is the most crucial work there is. Arthur Hartman, plumber, informant, grandfather, the man who mended what no one realized was broken. I am currently seated on my porch. The birdhouse sways gently in the July breeze. Inside, Jake is engaged in constructing something with Legos. Mai is preparing soup. My phone displays a text message from Arthur. "Coming Sunday. Made meatloaf. Don't laugh." I will not laugh. I will eat the meatloaf. I will observe my grandfather interacting with my son. I will sit at the table with the people I love, and I will possess a knowledge that most individuals are never afforded. That the quiet man at the end of the table, the one with the weathered hands, the corny jokes, and the birdhouses that will never be perfectly straight, is the bravest person I have ever encountered. And he is simply a plumber. Was Arthur wrong to keep this secret from his family for 56 years? Or was silence the only way to keep them safe? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If this story made you think, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We post new family dramas every week, and you won't want to miss what happens next.